Hello everyone. Today I have one of the most insane King's Gambit games ever played. It's a game that every King's Gambit player and every e5 player should probably memorize. Playing as white is Jesus Seoane Sepulveda, a professor of physics out of Madrid, and playing as black is Ignacio Prieto, who we know very little about. The game was played in 1986 in Cadiz, a city and port in southwestern Spain. It's a very historical city and one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in Europe. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Okay, here we go. The game opened up with e4, e5, f4. Here we have the starting position of the King's Gambit. By far the most popular reply in the move that was played here is e takes f4. You'll see that almost 70% of the time in games between titled players. The second most popular move is d5, followed by the third most popular move, c5. So for those of you new to the King's Gambit and thinking about playing it, those are the three main responses you want to be prepared to play against. E takes f4. Here, knight f3 was played to develop the knight and stop the queen from coming onto h4 with check. An alternative here for white is bishop c4, which does allow the queen to come to h4 with check. However, that queen will be a bit misplaced after white plays knight f3 to kick the queen away. So knight f3, white opts to develop the knight, stop the queen check, and move one step closer to castling. g5, attempting to hold on to the f4 pawn. White can choose between three different approaches here. h4 is the most popular, followed by bishop c4, and then knight c3. Those are the top three moves to consider. White played knight c3. Here black decides on the most simple looking idea, to play g4 to kick the knight, followed by queen h4 check. This idea is actually not that great, and white should be able to gain at least a slight advantage. So this is a position you can certainly prepare for, and it's a position where you can catch your opponent off guard with. g4, knight e5, and what I like about this position is that if black plays the most attractive looking moves, white will gain an advantage, or equalize at least. And I think that's what happened in this game. Queen h4 check. From here, you have to play a couple of precise moves to maintain the advantage. g3, this is the only move to play. And the only response to it is f takes g3. Queen takes g4. Black has to play queen takes queen or bishop e7. In this game, black decides to do something clever. He decides to give up his queen, but promote his g-pawn into a new queen. Let's look at how that went. g2 check. It's a discovered check by the queen, and it's actually a queen sacrificed by black, because as you can see, the h4 queen is not defended. Queen takes h4. G takes h1 queen. This is certainly something you don't see very often. Now you have to be careful to play the right move. If you want to pause the video and see if you can find the best move here, now is the time to do so. So this is an important psychological moment of the game. The e5 knight is well placed for the attack on the black king. The queen has a diagonal cutting through lines right next to the black king. Your first instinct might be to bring in the other knight with, say, knight d5, or maybe to move the d-pawn to open up lines for the dark squared bishop. Despite these kinds of ideas often being correct in these kinds of positions, all of that would be wrong here. We have to be able to evaluate the position fully and thoroughly. Sometimes the correct move is the quiet move. White played queen h5, and black is in trouble. If black does nothing, we have queen takes a f7 check, followed by queen takes f8 checkmate. Black played bishop d7, but let's look at knight f6. If knight f6, we would play d4 to maintain the winning advantage. Now the threat is that we take the h6 knight, which is only defended by the f8 bishop. Black plays d6, trying to kick our knight away, and we play bishop takes h6, d takes e5. Your first instinct here might be to play queen takes e5, forking the king and the rook. And yes, that is probably going to be winning, but the best continuation is bishop takes f8, rook takes f8, castle queenside. And black is hanging on by a thread. We already have threats of bishop c6 check, winning the queen. Another possibility is queen takes e5 check. Black's king is in an uncastled position, and also in the center of the board, and our position is active. Black does not have one well-placed piece. In fact, black has no way of really saving the queen. If, for example, black plays knight d7 to block check, we have bishop h3 and the queen is trapped. Now let's go back and look at what was played. Bishop d6. Queen takes f7 check, king d8, d4. White is moving the pawn up 2 squares instead of 1 because even if the light squared bishop can't move due to the pin by the queen, it's important that we leave the f1 a6 diagonal open should black's queen decide to unpin the bishop. So that's why we played the pawn 2 squares up instead of 1. The pawn on d3 would obviously block our bishop. By playing d4, we're also playing a move that protects our knight on e5. Knight e7, bishop g5, paralyzing the knight. Knight c6, desperately trying to protect the e7 knight and black's king. In this position, the e7 knight is pinned, and what do we do to a pinned piece? We attack it. Knight d5. This move does not drop the e4 pawn because of an oversight. White lets black take that pawn because white can stop the checks afterwards. So queen takes e4 check, bishop e2, queen h1 check, king d2, queen takes a1. Black is up 10 pawns worth of material, but it doesn't matter because we are on the verge of checkmating the black king. Certainly, knight takes c6 check works here, but white decided to finish the game in style. White played queen e8 check. It's a good queen sacrifice. No choice but to take the king here. Otherwise, it's smothered mate. King takes e8, knight f6 check. If black plays king d8, we have knight f7 checkmate. So king f8. And I'm sure you can see it now. White finished the game off in style with bishop h6 checkmate. A beautiful finish to a beautiful game. Is this the most beautiful King's Gambit game ever played? Let me know in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.